The Great Pyramid of Giza is the largest compass ever built, 2,560 BCE, the Giza Plateau, Egypt. The chief architect, Hemiunu, faced an unprecedented challenge. The pyramid for Pharaoh Khufu would rise 481 feet, built from 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing 2.5 tons. Its base would span 13 acres, a structure so vast it would remain the tallest building on Earth for nearly 3,800 years. Yet Hemiunu's greatest triumph wasn't its size, it was its precision. The Great Pyramid's corners align with the four cardinal directions to within 1/15 of a degree, a level of accuracy modern builders rarely achieve, even with advanced instruments. How did the Egyptians do it? The question has challenged scholars for centuries. The solar shadow theory suggests engineers tracked the sun's movement to find true north. The stellar alignment theory proposes they used circumpolar stars. Others believe they relied on water levels and shadow lengths at specific times of year. Whatever the method, the alignment had to be perfect before construction began. Once millions of tons of stone were laid, there would be no correcting errors. Hemiunu had to get it right the first time. The pyramid has withstood earthquakes, sandstorms, and 4 millennia of history. Its smooth limestone casing is gone, stripped by looters, but the core remains unbroken, a monument to mathematical genius and human endurance. Still standing after 45 centuries, the Great Pyramid is more than a tomb. It is the world's largest compass, its flawless alignment, an eternal mystery written in stone. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon may have relied on a rooftop irrigation system. 6th century BCE Babylon, Mesopotamia. The Hanging Gardens are unlike any other wonder of the ancient world, because they may never have existed. No archaeological evidence has ever been found. Everything we know comes from Greek and Roman writers who lived centuries after the gardens were said to have been built. Yet their descriptions share striking consistency, terraced levels rising one above another, supported by stone vaults, and filled with soil deep enough to sustain full-grown trees. The foundations were sealed with lead to prevent water damage, a remarkable feat for the 6th century BCE. The true challenge was water. Babylon received almost no rain. To keep trees and flowers alive hundreds of feet above the ground required a constant uphill flow from the Euphrates River. Ancient accounts describe ingenious machinery, chain pumps with buckets on pulleys, or screw-like devices lifting water to elevated tanks from which it flowed downward through channels to each terrace. Whether these systems ever existed, they represent the earliest imagined triumph of engineering over nature. The gardens were said to have been built by King Nebuchadnezzar II around 600 BCE, a gift for his homesick queen, Amytis, who longed for the mountains of her homeland. The terraces recreated those distant hills in the flat Babylonian plain. But modern research offers another possibility, that the so-called Babylonian gardens actually stood in Nineveh. Built a century earlier by the Assyrian king Sennacherib, whose palace records describe advanced irrigation systems and terraced landscapes. Archaeology supports Nineveh's innovations, but Babylon remains silent. Whether real or myth, the Hanging Gardens endure as symbols of human ambition, an ancient dream of turning desert into paradise, and of proving that imagination, guided by ingenuity, can make even the impossible bloom. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was almost stolen by a Roman emperor. 1st century CE Olympia, Greece. The statue of Zeus dominated the temple's interior, 40 feet tall, so immense that visitors said if the god stood, his head would pierce the roof. Created by the sculptor Phidias around 435 BCE, Zeus sat upon a magnificent throne, his flesh fashioned from ivory plates over a wooden frame, his robes of hammered gold. For nearly 8 centuries, the statue was the heart of Olympia, the sacred center of the ancient Olympic Games. Pilgrims crossed the Mediterranean to behold Phidias's masterpiece, believing they stood in the presence of the divine. Then, around 40 CE, it caught the eye of Emperor Caligula. Known for his vanity and madness, Caligula demanded the statue be brought to Rome, not merely as a trophy, but to replace Zeus's face with his own. The plan was audacious: dismantle a 40-foot Colossus, ship it 800 miles by sea, then reassemble it in the imperial capital. But according to Roman historians Suetonius and Cassius Dio, as workers began their preparations, the scaffolding collapsed, and a sound of booming laughter echoed through the temple. Terrified laborers fled, convinced Zeus himself had mocked the emperor's arrogance. Whether this truly happened or was later legend, the message was clear. The project was abandoned. Caligula never received his god's throne. The statue remained in Olympia for another 4 centuries before disappearing from history, perhaps consumed by fire in Constantinople around 475 CE, or destroyed by Christian iconoclasts erasing the last symbols of pagan belief. Today, nothing survives but written descriptions, and the legend of an emperor who tried to steal a god's image, only to be stopped by laughter echoing from eternity. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was completely rebuilt after burning down. 356 BCE, Ephesus, Asia Minor. Flames consumed the Temple of Artemis, one of the ancient world's largest structures, through the night. Inside, priceless artworks and religious offerings accumulated over centuries burned. The man responsible was Herostratus, whose motivation was disturbing. He wanted to be remembered by history. He calculated that destroying a famous structure would guarantee immortality. The temple had stood over 2 centuries as Ephesus's pride, measuring 377 feet long and 180 feet wide, with 127 marble columns, each 60 feet tall. After capturing and executing Herostratus, the Ephesians passed damnatio memoriae, making it capital crime to speak his name, denying him the immortality he sought. The irony is that trying to forget him ensured he'd be remembered. Ancient historians recorded both the fire and the arsonist's name. Herostratic fame, fame through destructive acts, is now named after him. But the Ephesians immediately began rebuilding on an even grander scale. The reconstruction took over 30 years, funded by donations from across Asia Minor. The new temple surpassed its predecessor in magnificence. Alexander the Great offered to pay for the entire reconstruction when he visited Ephesus. The Ephesians diplomatically refused, reportedly saying it wasn't fitting for one god to build another god's temple. The reconstructed temple stood over 600 years, surviving Alexander's conquests, Rome's rise, and gradual Christianization. But in 268 CE, raiding Goths sacked Ephesus and destroyed the temple. This time, there was no reconstruction. Christianity had diminished its religious importance, and Ephesus lacked resources to rebuild. Over centuries, the temple's stones were quarried for other buildings, including Constantinople's Hagia Sophia. The site gradually disappeared beneath sediment. Its location was eventually forgotten until British archaeologist John Turtle Wood found the foundations in 1869. The man who burned the temple achieved historical immortality, but so did the temple itself. Though physically gone, it remains celebrated, remembered not just for beauty, but for Ephesian dedication to preserve their city's greatest treasure, despite one man's crime. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus gave us the word mausoleum, 353 BCE. Halicarnassus, Asia Minor. As Mausolus, satrap of Caria, lay dying, his wife and sister Artemisia II conceived a monument that would make his memory eternal. She would build a tomb so magnificent it would define monumental architecture forever. So enduring, its very name would become a word. Mausoleum. Artemisia gathered the finest Greek architects and sculptors of her age. The design fused cultures, Greek, Persian, and Egyptian, into one breathtaking statement of power and devotion. The base measured 120 by 100 feet, rising 60 feet high and surrounded by 36 marble columns forming a grand colonnade. Above it stood the burial chamber, adorned with Persian motifs. Capping it all, a 24-step pyramid rose to a colossal marble chariot, carrying Mausolus and Artemisia side by side. The structure reached 140 feet, one of the tallest buildings of the ancient world. But what made it a wonder wasn't size alone. It was artistry. The finest sculptors, Scopas, Bryaxis, Leocharis, and Timotheus, covered every surface with reliefs of battles, gods, and heroes, blending realism and myth in marble. The mausoleum stood for nearly 1,600 years, surviving earthquakes, invasions, and empires. Only between the 12th and 15th centuries did tremors finally bring it down. In the 1490s, the Knights of St. John, fortifying nearby Bodrum Castle, quarried its stones for walls still standing today. When British archaeologist Charles Newton excavated the site in the 1850s, he unearthed fragments of sculptures now housed in the British Museum, faces and horses so lifelike they still seem to breathe. Yet the mausoleum's greatest legacy isn't the marble that remains, it's the word. By the 1st century BCE, Romans used mausoleum for any grand tomb. The term passed through languages and centuries, describing everything from the Taj Mahal to Lenin's tomb. In seeking to immortalize her husband, Artemisia succeeded beyond measure. Mausolus's name endures not in stone, but in speech itself, spoken by millions who know nothing of Caria or Halicarnassus. The man she loved became what he desired most: eternal. An oracle prevented the reconstruction of the Colossus of Rhodes. 226 BCE. The harbor of Rhodes, Greek islands. The earthquake struck without warning. When shaking stopped, the Colossus, the towering bronze statue of sun god Helios, lay in massive pieces, snapped at the knees after standing just 54 years. Built between 292 to 280 BCE to commemorate Rhodes's successful defense against siege, the Colossus stood approximately 108 feet tall. Sculptor Chares of Lindos built it from inside out, an iron and stone framework with bronze plates hammered around it. The project consumed 15 tons of bronze and 9 tons of iron over 12 years. After the collapse, reconstruction seemed obvious. Egypt's Ptolemy III offered financial support. Resources were available. Bronze could be salvaged. Knowledge remained fresh. But then, the Rhodians consulted the Oracle of Delphi. The Oracle, the Pythia, high priestess of Apollo's temple, was ancient Greece's most important religious authority. Her prophecies guided kings, generals, and citizens making important decisions. The oracle's response was unambiguous. Rebuilding would anger Helios and bring divine retribution. The god himself struck down his statue as a sign he didn't wish such depiction. Rebuilding would defy divine will. Despite Ptolemy's offer and desire to restore their famous monument, the Rhodians couldn't risk divine anger. The bronze fragments remained where they fell. For 880 years, visitors marveled at the massive pieces scattered near the harbor. Roman historian Pliny the Elder, writing 3 centuries after collapse, described few people could wrap arms around the fallen thumb. Finally, in 654 CE, Arab forces conquered Rhodes. According to chronicles, the Arab general sold the bronze fragments to a Jewish merchant who needed 900 camels to transport the metal, suggesting 200 to 300 tons, consistent with original estimates. The oracle's prophecy preserved the fallen Colossus for 9 centuries, but couldn't prevent its final disappearance. No confirmed pieces survive today. Of all 7 wonders, the Colossus had the shortest existence, just 54 years standing. Yet its impact has been profound. The Statue of Liberty was deliberately designed to echo it. The word colossal derives from it. The Rhodians' choice to obey the oracle rather than rebuild seems strange today, but ancient Greeks operated under different assumptions about gods and fate. In honoring the prophecy, they demonstrated sophrosyne, moderation, and self-restraint. They had resources to rebuild, but chose not to, accepting what they believed was divine will. The Lighthouse of Alexandria's beacon could be seen for 35 miles, 280 BCE. The island of Pharos, Alexandria, Egypt. Rising 350 feet into the Egyptian sky, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was the second tallest structure in the ancient world, surpassed only by the Great Pyramid, just 120 miles away. Yet it wasn't built for glory alone. It was a tool of survival, guiding sailors through the deadly reefs and shifting sands that had claimed countless ships along Egypt's coast. Its beacon, magnified by massive bronze mirrors, could be seen 35 miles away, a feat that defied the limits of ancient technology. Commissioned by Ptolemy I, the architect Sostratus of Cnidus designed it in 3 ascending tiers. The base, a vast square platform nearly 180 feet across, contained quarters and storage rooms. Above it rose an octagonal tower over 100 feet tall, housing mechanical systems. At the summit stood a cylindrical chamber where a roaring fire blazed, its light reflected outward by polished bronze mirrors, concentrating beams powerful enough to pierce the night sea. The logistics were monumental. Workers hauled hundreds of pounds of fuel up the tower each night, maintaining the flame and cleaning mirrors with relentless precision. Some sources suggest ingenious hydraulic lifts, powered by animals carried fuel to the top. For nearly 16 centuries, the lighthouse fulfilled its purpose, outlasting empires from the Ptolemies to the Romans, Byzantines, and early Islamic rulers. Even travelers in the 9th and 10th centuries described it still shining across Alexandria's bay, more than 1,000 years after it was built. But time and earthquakes finally conquered what men had raised. By 1323, it lay in ruins. In 1480, Sultan Qaitbay reused its fallen stones to build a coastal fortress on the same site. Fort Qaitbay, which still stands today, its walls literally built from the bones of the ancient wonder. Underwater excavations in 1994 revealed colossal blocks, columns, and statues scattered across Alexandria's harbor floor, confirming ancient descriptions of its grandeur. From the island's name, Pharos, came a new word for lighthouse in Latin and the Romance languages, a linguistic monument that still endures. The Lighthouse of Alexandria may have crumbled, but its legacy endures in language, in engineering, and in imagination, the world's first true beacon, whose fire once reached 35 miles across eternity. Conclusion. Of 7 wonders Antipater listed, only one remains, the Great Pyramid. The others vanished, destroyed by earthquakes, fire, demolition, or time's gradual decay. Yet these wonders survive unexpectedly. They live in language, mausoleum, colossal, pharaohs, words spoken millions of times by people who've never heard of Halicarnassus, Rhodes, or pharaohs. They live in inspiration, as each generation studies how ancient peoples achieved such marvels with primitive technology. They live in imagination, where the hanging gardens still bloom, where Zeus sits in majesty, where the Colossus guards Rhodes' harbor, and where the Lighthouse's beacon guides ships. The seven wonders were statements of human capability, demonstrations that with determination, skill, and resources, humans could create beauty approaching the divine. They showed that civilizations separated by thousands of miles shared the same impulse to build monuments outlasting their creators. That most disappeared doesn't diminish their achievement. It emphasizes it. We remember them not because they survived, but because they were worth remembering even in absence. The Great Pyramid, sole survivor at 4,500 years old, proves humans can create works transcending time. But the lost wonders remind us everything human is temporary, that memory can outlast stone, that stories survive when structures fall. Antipater couldn't have known most wonders would crumble. He wrote as if they were eternal. In a sense, he was right. 22 centuries later, we still speak of them with awe, still study how they were built, still marvel at ancient achievements. The wonders are gone, but wonder remains. And perhaps that's the most important legacy. Not the structures themselves, but human capacity they represent. The ability to imagine something greater, to make that vision real, and to create beauty-inspiring generations yet unborn. The seven wonders remind us humanity's greatest achievements aren't monuments that survive, but determination to build them in the first place. They challenge us to create our own wonders, knowing they too will fall, but building anyway, because the act of creation itself, the ambition, skill, vision, is what makes us human. In the Great Pyramid's shadow, we still hear echoes of all seven wonders speaking across millennia. We were here. We built. We dared. Remember us.